Hey all lads and lasses, Danfire here, back again with some more Infinite Lagrange. I have yet another guide for you today, and it's regarding outposts. Now, outposts are the little things that you can build. You just click randomly around and hit build, and I have no utility ships, and you'll get a little thing saying you can build outposts and mining platforms, etc. But they are very powerful because they do allow you to warp around, so you can use them as warp points and stuff like that, which is great for getting around the system if you need to. And other benefits of them are they can be docked to things. Now, I've covered docking outposts to bases, to asteroids before in my mining guide, but I haven't covered docking them to pirate bases and city bases and that kind of thing. Now, very, very important before we go in and we have a look through the rather extensive list, it's very important to note that there are two types of docking effects and how they get triggered. Now, the first one's pretty simple. If you look at it and it says just underneath the line where it's explaining what it is, it'll say Outposts Docking Effect. This means that you only need to dock the outpost to it, which means you don't have to relocate your base to attach to get this effect. In this case, it would increase the mining speed of this area here, the area that the outpost is sat in. So that one's nice and simple. Click on the base when it's got, once you kill the pirates or the city fleet or whatever it is off, hit dock, and then build your outpost. That's all you need to do for that one. Now, in the case of the slightly more complicated one, is you have the ones that say base docking effects. Now, I find a lot of people seem to either know what it is, but they're not 100% sure, or they're not sure, or I could just be making an assumption that people just keep docking outposts on bases, maybe to stop other players or something like that. So, the ones that say base docking effect means that you need to build the outpost onto it, and then you need to relocate your base to that outpost. So it's very important that you make sure that you read through and make sure that you've got the base docking effect or it's an outpost docking effect, and accordingly move your base to it or or just build an outpost onto it. And yeah, sorry about the pop-ups. I've got a blockade going in pirate fleets, so yeah, that's another trick that I'll teach you in another point to just get passive farming, basically. Anyway, yeah, so we'll jump on over. I've got a big list. Again, massive shout out to Respect for this. I was literally going through screenshotting like all of the outposts to find all of the different types there are and all of these abilities you can get from them. Thankfully, he has a really nice spreadsheet, so we're going to jump into that spreadsheet. I'll leave a link for this in the description as well, so you can go check that out. And yeah, so shout out to Request for this one, who sent me this link over for his Google Doc. So yeah, let's jump over to that. Right, so we are in the Google Doc. Now, this is an extremely extensive documentation on the game. I kind of wish I had this previously. It's got everything from battle tests and all sorts to mining and construction trees and the enhancement system, and yeah, this is very, very cool. So again, credit to Null Pointer in this one and Request for giving me the link. But so yeah, this is all of the bonuses that you can possibly get. Now, the majority of these you will need to dock your base to. I believe the only ones that are outpost triggered are the ones for UE coin production and the mining operation bonuses. So yeah, definitely pretty difficult to get onto some of these, and this is why I recommend that you sort of wait until you can either find one next to a decent mining area, or at least have maybe advanced mining outposts, so you don't have to have your ships traveling too far for mining, because it will damage your potential yield and stuff like that off mining. So first off, we have the resource storage caps. Now, I don't personally recommend these, and this is just due to the fact that all they do is give you a bigger warehouse at the end of the day. Most of the time, if you're in a war or constantly keeping your upgrades going, you're never going to really fill up on resources particularly quick because you're constantly building ships and stuff like that. So the only use I could see this is like maybe you're going on holiday for a weekend or something, and that extra resources that you might miss if you didn't have extra warehouse capacity. That's where this is could be potentially useful. On the other side, though, we have the increased resource yield at the base. These kind of work more or less the same as asteroids, but they give you a bit of all the resources. So I actually quite think these are quite good. Even the early one, the small resource synthesis stations, not too bad. And if you can grab hold of one of these sort of early mid-game, that's going to give you a nice little buff, especially if you can get it near asteroids or something like that, so you can carry on your mining operations at the same time. The resource synthesis plant gives 40,000 metal, 1,000 crystal, 500 deuterium, which is actually pretty good because yes, the asteroids don't give much more than that, if anything. They actually don't give much more than that. So it's definitely very good. It kind of works like the same way as when you start into a server. You're on asteroid dust, I think they call it, and that gives you a bit of resources for everything. This is kind of like the bigger, better version of it. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for the increased resource yields. They're pretty strong. The capacity of base defense system, these increase the defense hangar capacity by 10 and 20 for the small and the large. I wouldn't recommend these at all. Most of the time, in my case at least anyway, I don't have enough blueprints to fill up all of my carriers in my main fleet and my secondary fleet anyway. So having defense hangars, not particularly useful. Again, it's niche situation though. This could be good if you're, again, maybe going on holiday and you do have all these spare fighters that you could build to maybe help defend yourself. So there is uses for pretty much all of these, but it's more difficult to sort of find the use for them if you are playing on like a daily or basis and keeping up with everything. The next one increases the max command points for a single fleet. There are 3 types of this. There's the long-range command branch, cooperative engagement facility, and the field command center. They give respectively 15 command points, 30 command points, and 50 command points. The latter of these, the field command center, is very, very strong. That's a entire 10 Stingers into a fleet that you wouldn't be able to put into before, or even maybe adding in some Guardians or something as support. So yeah, these are very, very strong. Even the plus 15's not too bad, especially because that'll be earlier on. As the more these things give you, genuinely, the higher the level of the base is on it that you need to kill, and you won't be able to kill those early on particularly easily. Unless maybe you can get your union together to give one guy a big buff. And then you can... There's some tricks you could do there. So yeah, definitely very strong. We then have the liaison center. This increases the max number of liaison trading points by plus 2. It's okay. I genuinely don't think liaising after... after phase 1 is particularly useful, and in phase 2 I definitely liaise less. Before I had like 2-3 guys liaising to trade centers, and this was due to the fact that I was trying to pick up rages because I didn't have good blueprints for ships. And everything's limited anyway in liaising, so you buy your 10 frigates and that's it for the day. You got to wait for a reset the next day. So I don't think the liaison center is something you should really be looking for, unless maybe early on and you can't liaise that much because you haven't upgraded the sensor for it on your base. But yeah, it's not particularly useful. We then have the route command branch and the route command center, which increase the max action points. Now this is just a cap of your action points, so at base it's 150. You can get plus 30 and plus 50. Again, if you're not playing very much, or you're only able to log in once a day. This could be useful for you to grab hold of, so you can sit on it, have a 200 cap instead of 150, so when you do log in, you can get a little bit more work done and make the most of the small amount of time you may potentially just be logging in for. We then have the small supply depot and the transit supply center. These increase the max number of reinforcements. This is very, very, very good. So you can't help other people with this one unless they're also sat on it. But if you're sat on it, anybody else can help you, which is quite cool. And they increase the max number of reinforcements by 1 and +4 for the large one. Now that's the difference between... That's almost double for the larger version, allowing you to reinforce 9 ships. Now, a lot of the time you'll find that your battle cruisers, and if you're using the Solar Whale, are very, very slow, so you don't try and keep them in your fleet and use them as reinforcements. With this allows you to reinforce 4 more times into each of your fleets. So you can now go, I'm just going to reinforce 5 ST-59s and 4 Solar Whales into a fleet in one go, which is pretty significant. And this is probably one of, if not the strongest buff you can potentially get from these. So definitely keep an eye out for this one. They're quite rare. They're usually around the big level 7+ cities. So they're difficult to get because you need to control the city to be able to get these in the first place. So definitely keep an eye out for them. They are very, very strong. We then have High Energy Fuel Research Institute and the High Energy Fuel Research Center. These increase max sailing range by 500 and 1,000. These are useful in the situations like maybe your union's losing on one side of a region, so you're going to move back into a different region, but you're too far away. These might be useful for just like a quick jump or two, just to increase that max sailing range, so you can just go a little bit further and that sort of stuff. Again, I don't particularly think this one's useful. It's pretty underwhelming at best, in my opinion. We then have the Tactics Institute and the Tactical Research Center, which give action point recovery +4 and +8. If you're very active and you're logging in multiple times a day, or maybe you're logged in all day, all the time, +8 action points is actually pretty good. So yeah, these definitely have their uses. If you're very active and you're trying to do lots of things all day, this could be something for you. Yeah, I can't not recommend this one for that type of player. Again, if you're not logged in daily and if you're only logging in once a day or something like that, this is going to be completely wasted. So best to ignore in that circumstance. We then have the temporary maintenance platform and the quick repair station. These give daily recovery speed of prefab modules by 5% and 10%. These are actually pretty good. So the prefab modules are the modules that let you speed things up, so you can get things out a little bit quicker. Earlier on, these are very, very powerful because it allowed you to jump the gun on people and maybe get ahead of them in some way. In other circumstances later on in the game, probably not as useful, but still not bad. We then have increase the repair speed of ships in the base with the ship maintenance facility, the ship maintenance platform, and the ship maintenance hub. These increase the basic repair speed by 10%, 20%, and 30%. These are pretty useful because 30% increased repair speed on something like an ST-59 or any of the other battle cruisers for that matter, or carriers, because they got such long repair times if they do get very low. This will definitely help you out and get you back into the fight a bit quicker. If you're at war, if you're constantly getting into battles, definitely have a look at these ones. They could be very useful to you. We then have Dust Collector, which increases mining speed within the operation area by 10%. There is some other names for this one as well, docking names. These are pretty pants, usually. For whatever reason, the operation area for these things never actually includes asteroids. In like maybe like 90% of the ones I've seen found in game, they've had like 0 to 1 asteroid in it, so they are completely and utterly worth it in this case, and they're more or less doing the same thing that the mining platforms you can build do anyway. So to be honest, the fact that the mining platforms are in the game, these should probably get removed or replaced with something better. We then have the large assembly plant and large assembly center, and these increase the building speed of cruisers, giving you a 10% or a 15% increase to building speed of cruisers. Late game, this is very good because cruisers do take a long time to build, so being able to push them out faster is going to be useful to you as long as you have the resources to manage this kind of eco. If you can't build a bunch of cruisers and then as soon as they die just constantly keep pushing them out because you don't have the resources anyway, these are pretty useless. But if you do have the ability to have increased, make use of this buff, it can be very strong, especially late game where a lot of the battles include a lot of cruisers, and so yeah, definitely quite useful. We then have quick parts factory, quick parts plant, and the quick assembly center. These increase the building speed of frigates and destroyers by 5%, 10%, and 15%. Now in phase 2, I was contemplating jumping on one of these because there's one very, very close to me. It was plus 10% one, and I could have taken it out very early. It was only a level 1 or level 2 base. And by the time I got round to going, I can take that now, I was already at cruisers. So I actually don't rate this one because I can't see the use of it. Yes, it's very useful for building the frigates and destroyers, but if you're already at cruise at that point, you don't build so many frigates and destroyers. You flesh out your fleets with them a bit more. There is some builds that you can do to use a little bit of everything, but even then, the build speed on frigates and destroyers isn't too long anyway. It's not like a cruiser or a battle cruiser, so I don't find these particularly useful. We then have the Super Capital Ship Assembly Center. These increase the building speed of battle cruisers and carriers by 10%. These are genuinely found, again, high-level cities, so you won't find many of these, and the use is extremely... It is very viable later on, especially, like you're in base 9 or you're in like level 10 on the base or something like that. And these can be very good because that 10%, it does add up. The more battle cruisers you're building, the more you're going to get out of it. The more carriers you're building, the more you'll get out of it. Again, this is going to be completely dependent on your resource income anyway, because even at very high incomes, you might be able to queue up maybe 2 battle cruisers or something like that. You can potentially cruise up more if you've not logged in for a couple of days, but it's interesting because there is like a straight up better version of this, which we'll get to later on. We then have the increased UE coin production. These are the small material exchange, the trade ports, and the large trading platform. These increase your UE coin production yield by 300, 600, and 900. These only need outposts, so if you do see these and they're genuinely dotted around cities, do pick them up because more UE coins means you can definitely buy the 20,000 UE coin boxes, for example, on a daily basis. You can buy 2 of them, the 20,000 each. So, the 10,000 each, 20,000 for both. And yeah, so being able to buy those and the weapon research and stuff like that, it's actually quite useful, especially when you move into a new phase or something like that, because you do lose the bonuses to your weapons. So they're quite useful. They only take an outpost. You don't have to dock a base to them. You can get loads of them. And they're a lot more efficient than trying to get the habitats up within the base anyway. We then have the trade customs, which is the resource exchange ratio. So this is when you're trading, maybe you've got not enough metal, which is mostly the case, and you've got too much deuterium, so you trade your deuterium off to metal. And this gives you an extra 5% bonus to that, which is quite good. If you add that up with the bonus that you get from maxing out the base, which I think is 25% or 20%, so you are now going to get a 25 or 30% increased amount of resources for what you're trading in. So it's definitely very good. It's probably not as good as some of the other ones on here, but as you're definitely like trying to rush through the base tiers, you can use this to your advantage for certain. We then have the Super Capital Shipyard 2. It literally unlocks a second capital shipyard. So, as I mentioned earlier, where you could get a 10% increase of battle cruisers and carriers build speed, this lets you build two at the same time. This is probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest, buff that you can get from the Outpost for certain. And this is due to the fact that it basically doubles the amount of battle cruisers and carriers you can get out. Again, all regarding whether you can keep up with the resource demand that being able to do that is. And at the same time, you need to be able to get those resources. And these are, I've only ever seen these right next to level 7 cities and stuff like that. So again, no resources anywhere near them, so you're going to have to use advanced mining platforms to even get the chance of being able to keep up with the resource that you need to facilitate building multiple super capitals at the same time. But needless, as you can imagine, it is very strong. Building two capitals, super capitals at any time's pretty strong. We then have the new ones, and these unlock blueprints. So we have the Fighter Research Center that unlocks the E101, the Rationale Combat Attacker, which is a fighter. I'm not sure on any of these at the moment, so I can't really give you too much sort of details on them. For one, they're not in my server. Because our server started before the Outpost patch came in, which was yesterday or day before. So yeah, I really don't know much about any of these fighters and stuff like that, so I can't give you a particularly good description of how they fare within the rankings and stuff like that. But so as far as I'm aware, you dock to this thing and it gives you the blueprint. Whether that lets you upgrade the blueprint or not, I'm not sure of at the moment either. I have got some people that are on new servers that I've been chatting to, and they said they'll dock to one at some point. So yeah, they will help me out. That's Legion from, I think they're like 32, server 32 or something like that, I think they said. So yeah, they're going to be helping me out. We then have the Corvette Research Center. That unlocks the Wildfire Torpedo Corvette. We have the Carrier Research Center, which unlocks the CV3000. As you know from my ranking videos, I rate this very, very high. So if you have been unfortunate enough to not unlock it, this could be pretty useful and definitely something you might consider later on. We then have the Sacrum Chew Imperium Destroyer Research Center. That gives you the Helios, which is a heavy cannon assault ship. The Helioses aren't too bad. They're a city ship, and I've used them before in Phase 1. They're not bad. So if you have the ability to upgrade them, they could be kind of meta. We have the Sacrum Chew Imperium Cruiser Research Center, which unlocks the Star Sweeper Iron Cannon Cruiser. Kind of like a baby IO. I don't believe it's as high damaging as the IO, but it has a slightly faster fire rate. So it's not bad. And again, if this unlocks the blueprint and you can actually upgrade the blueprint, this could be very strong. Something that's been mentioned multiple times is I missed an AC721 in my ranking video, and this is why. The Iron Weapon Research Center unlocks the AC721 Heavy Iron Cannon Destroyer. That's why it's not in the ranking video, because it got removed from the beta and was now added into one of these blueprint unlocks from docking. I never got hands-on with it, but from some of the beta guys that have spoken to me in the past have mentioned that it is very strong, and that's potentially why it was removed from the beta. So it could be very, very good, but I can't give you my knowledge on it. I can only tell you what I've heard. We then have the Space Flight Technology Research Center that unlocks the Noma 330 high-speed armed survey ship. Again, I've only seen these in pirate fleets. They die very quickly. They don't deal very much damage, but that could just be because the blueprints aren't upgraded for pirates. So there you go. So that is all of them. I hope you found this quite useful and informative. I will leave a link to this this spreadsheet down below in the description. It's an incredible resource, and again, shout out to Request for linking me this, and shout out to Null Pointer who has created this list. Hopefully that's not the two same people, and it's just he's using his in-game name here and his Discord name, otherwise he's getting like double the amount of shout outs. Anyway guys, hope you found this informative and useful to you. Have a good one, and I'll catch you next time.